Hey everybody, I want to introduce you today to Bay Sandoval. Hi Bay. So nice to
Hi.
have you on today.
Thank
Bay
you.
is really interesting. I've never had an influencer in our space before, like on our podcast, on our YouTube videos. And you guys know that it's really important for me to focus on other women that are changing the world and that are not afraid to tell their message. And Bay is one of them. So she's an influencer. She is a fitness coach. She's a pretty new mom. And so she's got all these really neat stories to really talk to her listeners about. Just raw and real. And so I really want you guys to meet her today. And then after the interview that we do, please make sure that you go out and follow her on Instagram. She's got a YouTube channel. So I'm going to kick this off to Bay. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing in this influencer space, and what's your passion, and what do you want to do out of all of this? How do you want to inspire other people?
Yeah, so hi Jennifer. Hi everyone. I just want to say I'm so honored to be on here with you. I love your podcast and I love what you do. I'm really inspired by your interviews. So I'm so happy to be here. And I became a blogger officially 3 months ago. And my big passion in blogging is to inspire other women through style, and then leading off onto like motherhood and fitness and things like that. But I've just been inspired by blogs my entire life. Ever since like I was a teenager and blogs were first coming about, just learning about how other people's lives are and how they kind of navigate this crazy mess of life. And so my passion has kind of evolved, especially since I became a mom, because I didn't realize how hard life was until I became a mom, really. And I thought it would be a lot easier than it is. And I want other women to be able to go to my blog and find inspiration for their daily life and inspiration for their body image, because we all struggle with body image stuff. And my body image has changed hundreds of times. You know, you go through phases where you feel good in your skin and then you don't, and depending on just all kinds of different things. And it's intensely evolving when you become a mom, because your body changes quickly. And so my focus is mostly style, and then I just love to uplift and empower other women through my own story and to hear other people's stories, other women's stories. So
Beautiful. Okay, so let's talk first about style. I love your Instagram account. You are so
thank
cute anyway. And then some of the outfits that you've paired together, I'm like, I don't think I would ever think to do anything like that. But it's beautiful and super fun and really trendy, but like you have your own unique spin. So some questions I would have are, where do you get your style inspiration from? And then where are you buying all this cute stuff? Are you really into like thrifty thrift store stuff? Are you like Stitch Fix in a box delivered to your house? What's going on with your style?
That's a very good question. That's another thing that has evolved a lot in the last years. I've always been really inspired by fashion. And when I was growing up, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So becoming a blogger has made me kind of spread my wings with fashion and style, and made me realize, no, like I can rock things. I can just do it, you know, don't worry about, well, does this work with my body? Does this work? You know, I think we limit ourselves a lot by, you know, I'm pretty petite. I'm 5'3". So I think a lot of the time in the past, I have looked at certain things that tall girls wear, and I've thought to myself that I couldn't pull it off. But blogging and really seeing so many other bloggers put on an outfit, you know, regardless of their height, and rock it, like whether they're curvy or thin or whatever, it's inspired me to try that for myself and really play with it and be creative and try a bunch of different things. And I've always been into thrifting. So a lot of the stuff that I have is vintage or it's thrifted. But I buy a lot from Target and Forever 21 and H&M, and a lot of the floral things that I have, I've made. So that kind of links in the fashion designing thing. But I've moved away from that because it's very time consuming, and I'm not passionate about making clothes because it's so time consuming. I know some other women who are really good at it, and they're like actual seamstresses, and I don't consider myself to be that. I just kind of whip things together when I have an idea, but I go through spurts. So I don't make that many of my own clothes anymore. But anyway, so I allow myself to just try things on and see how they come together, in the moment. And I'm really inspired by other bloggers. So that's how I allow it to just come together in the moment.
I love that so much. I don't even know anywhere around me where there are thrift stores, and I'm sure that there are, but I just don't have it on my radar. So I do a lot of Stitch Fix,
Oh
and
yeah.
I found that it totally gets me out of my comfort zone. I would never buy almost all of the stuff that they send me, and it's cute and it's fun and it gets me again out of that comfort zone. And then I feel really good. Like I love to get my Stitch Fix each month because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have all these great pieces to use and to wear. And then it like gives you this confidence boost. So I started doing Stitch Fix last year when I had my first real mentor. And not that I've ever dressed bad. I've always feel like I've been a pretty decent dresser, but she was like, Jen, you're a CEO and you want to be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. You need to start dressing like that and feeling it, really feeling it. And that'll help manifest it. And so she really encouraged me to do Stitch Fix. And then she said, play with your wardrobe and play with pieces that you really feel like empower the CEO that you want to be. And it doesn't have to be a blazer, right? It doesn't have to be like a staunchy, stiff suit, but maybe it is a pretty floral overlay, or it's a pretty skirt that makes you feel, powerful that day with some pumps. And so I've really had some fun with that. And I feel like it also helps me personify what I want in the future. Like I want to dress like this because I'm going to be a $10 million company or $100 million company or whatever that is.
Yes, absolutely. Neil Patel, have you heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
He talks a lot. He's like a, I don't know what he would be actually called, but he's kind of like a business coach or an entrepreneur's coach. And he talks a lot about how, I think he actually did an experiment where he put himself to the challenge of buying basically a designer wardrobe, and it cost him thousands of dollars. But he was like, I'm just going to see if like me buying these clothes will help me manifest being this person who can buy these clothes. And he said it really, and you can look that blog post up or whatever.
I'll put it in the link below. So
yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting that actually just the action of him doing that invited more prosperity into his life. And I think about that a lot too, which is one of the reasons I love your podcast, because you talk about that kind of stuff a lot. And I'm a huge like Tony Robbins fan. I love to learn how to change my thinking so that I can be a more successful person, because so much negative thinking and self-limiting beliefs cause us to not become the person we want to be. So that's the other thing with fashion blogging. In January, I kind of just decided I'm going to start dressing like a fashion blogger because that's the only way I'm going to actually change my mindset and not think, well, someday I'll be a blogger. No, I just have to do it. And same with like YouTube. I recently just started uploading a lot to YouTube because I thought if I don't just do it and start seeing myself as the person who is on YouTube, then it'll just be on the back burner and it'll never really happen. So
totally agree with you. So I think this is a good segue. So we've talked about fashion. Let's talk a little bit about you being a trainer. And I don't know if you are today, but I know you have been in the past. And so you really help women, I think, come to a sense of peace that like, it's okay to have the body that you have. And it's also okay to step it up a level. And you don't have to also have the mom body either. And then kind of finding a balance. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So I became a personal trainer in the end of 2014, officially. Like I got my certification at that time. And before that, I ran cross country and track in college. And I kind of decided to become a trainer because I didn't want to leave fitness behind when I was done with track and cross country. So I looked into that and I my big thing was that I wanted to positively inspire people toward fitness in the ways that my coaches had inspired me toward fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And through becoming a personal trainer, I really had this experience where I spent time with a lot of women and talked to them about their bodies. And I noticed that a lot of women were really embarrassed to work out in front of me, which made me really sad because I thought, you're coming to me because you want to be more fit, but you're embarrassed that you're not fit enough right now in your own mind. And I realized that we as women, I think, look at each other with a lot more compassion than we see ourselves. We think like, oh, that girl has such a beautiful curvy figure, or that girl's, legs are so pretty. And then you talk to that girl and compliment her and she's like, oh, are you kidding me? I hate my legs, and we just do that to ourselves. And it's so sad to me. And I have always had a passion for just helping women see themselves in the light that I see them. And being a personal trainer has made me have that kind of a passion even more. And then being a mom, so it's kind of all stacking up, between being in athletics to being a personal trainer and then becoming a mom. You just kind of start to see how other women see themselves and how you see yourself. And, I've taken it on myself to use my knowledge to really help women stop being so negative about themselves and see strength as something they can attain. Like, women can choose to gain strength instead of losing weight per se, or just change your mindset so that it's not so much about, well, I need to lose this weight. Instead you can choose to really get into Olympic lifting, or training for a half marathon, or whatever you want to do that keeps you thinking of your body as a machine and something that can be built up instead of torn down. Or weight loss doesn't need to always be the goal. And it's surprising to me how many people don't understand that muscle weighs a lot more than fat. So if you're really gaining muscle, you shouldn't be worried about losing pounds. The number on the scale shouldn't matter as much as how good do I feel in my clothes, do I feel good in my jeans, and how much can I lift, so that's become my focus.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, I want to take you a little bit deeper because some of the topics on your blog are deep. It's postpartum deep. It's being a mom is hard deep. And I think that we're fed a lot of lies, frankly, as especially young girls. This is how, be prim and proper, cross your legs, you should wear a dress, you're supposed to get married, early and have a bunch of babies and live in a white picket fence and have 2.5 kids. And we're fed this and taught this at such an early age that becomes the expectation, right? Versus going to college and being a CEO and leading a company and things that men are supposed to be doing. So talk to us a little bit about the deeper stuff, a little bit about how being a mom isn't all it's cracked up to be sometimes, and how maybe we shouldn't, feed the same lie to our own kids and perpetuate this thing of you've got to have a bunch of kids and you've got to get married and you have to have this life that fits in this box. And if you don't, you're a loser. Like, that's not the reality. So maybe talk to us a little bit about things we should be thinking and saying, and how do we look at motherhood in a different light?
Cool. So I do go really deep in my blog, and I think that's important because, and honestly, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed that it seems like we're getting to a point in the blogosphere or in the internet where it seems like people are more willing to go deep, because maybe it's just the people I follow or something, but I really love seeing people say, hey, today wasn't such a great day. Because especially on Instagram, it's all about aesthetic and making sure it's like the picture perfect life and you have an Instagram husband and all this stuff. And it's kind of tongue in cheek, people joke about the Instagram lifestyle, and it's not really, nobody has that. Yeah, nobody has that, even if it looks like they do. And so I like to go deep on my blog because I just really want people to, be able to come to my blog for inspiration on on bad days, because that's what I do with other bloggers who are really big and they have a huge following, and they know how to mix just the right amount of personal stuff in and just inspire you. You go to their blog and maybe they're not having such a good day, and it's like, oh, I'm not the only one. Yay. Even this amazing blogger with all these followers and all these pretty photos and these wonderful clothes and this adorable baby, like, she doesn't have good days sometimes too, and she has body image issues too, just like the rest of us. And so when I became a mom, it felt kind of like a huge wake-up call on my own expectations for myself. And I've always had huge expectations for myself. Like, I need to do all of these things and I need to match up to my expectations for myself, or whatever expectations my teachers or coaches or family had or whatever. And I think a lot of that was self-inflicted. I don't think anybody ever said, well, you must do these things. It was just, I was saying, well, who am I supposed to be? And what do I need to accomplish to feel good about my life and myself? And when I became a mom, I had a huge realization that I couldn't just control everything about myself as a mom. You know, before that, going into college and everything, I had kind of a fake perspective on, maybe it wasn't fake, maybe it was just real for that time in my life when I was a student. And, you know, I can be a student and run track too, and I can do all these things. And when I became a mom, it wasn't possible anymore. It was like, you know, no, I can't breastfeed. I just can't. I want to, and I've tried everything to make it possible, and it's just not happening. And my baby is crying and hungry and won't sleep. And it was, I couldn't control all these little details anymore. And I couldn't even control the way my body looked, because I now had stretch marks and I now had extra weight and extra body fat, and you know, my skin was broken out, and there were just so many things that I felt out of control of. And I think that was a really positive thing, because it made me realize that I shouldn't want to control all of life. I can find beauty in life and I can find the positive things in life, but I can't control every little detail to my liking. And I think everybody should probably go through something where they find out, A, your expectations may not be necessary or realistic, and B, that isn't such a bad thing. And I went through a really dark, I don't know, maybe actually it was more than 6 months. I think it was a year at least after my son was born. I went through a really dark period where I just kept trying to fix these emotions I was having and this depression. And I didn't realize it was postpartum, or it could have been postpartum depression, because I thought, oh, that's only something that happens to women through like maybe the first three to 5 months after. Like, it's already been like more than a year. I don't have that. And then I read somewhere that women can have postpartum depression all the way up to their kid till their kid is 3. And that was a wake-up call. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe it is. So we immediately started researching therapists and stuff, and I went to therapy for about 7 months. And I never had to take medication or anything like that, but just that experience of being able to talk to somebody who is being paid to listen. You know, I'm not annoying her with all of my feelings. And I think we have this idea that, you know, people don't want to hear about it, you know, so we don't talk about it, right? But when you're at therapy, this person is being paid to sit there and listen to you. So nothing's off limits. And they've heard all kinds of stuff. So you can just say it. You can just bring it up, and they're not going to tell anybody. They shouldn't, at least. And so I just felt like I could really just tell her everything that and she's not going to change her view of me, because she knows that I have emotions that I need to talk through. So I just felt really free to, safe, exactly, to talk about all these things. And it made me realize that my thought process was limiting me when I thought that it was making me expand or making me grow. I thought that all these expectations were like challenging myself, and instead they were limiting me and keeping me from moving forward, because I would be afraid of failing at things, and so I wouldn't move forward because of that, or I would have expectations that were unrealistic. And anyway, so yeah, that was a good thing. And I would recommend therapy to everyone, because even if you don't think you have like depression or something, I think everybody needs to be able to talk through things. We all have expectations that we need to kind of get rid of because they're holding us back a lot of the time.
Absolutely. So then tell us, how did the therapist help kind of flip things for you? And now how are you looking at motherhood? Have things changed? Is it happy and glowy and like butterflies and unicorns all the time? Or how are you now learning how to manage that unrealistic
Yeah.
expectation that you might have had at the beginning?
Yeah, so I would make statements to her, which I've been making my whole life to everyone. You know, like I think one time I made a statement to my therapist, like, um, you know, I know I shouldn't think this about myself or something. And I probably made a series of statements about, well, I shouldn't blah, 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 or I shouldn't this, or I shouldn't that. And she said, you need to be careful with should and shouldn't statements, because sometimes, you know, those aren't really helping you psychologically move forward, and they're still self-limiting. And she made me realize that my self-talk was very unhealthy. And I just thought that, you know, well, these are the things that people do, and I shouldn't be a messy person, and I shouldn't have bad grades. Like, you know, we think that that's a good thing, that I shouldn't think that I shouldn't think that it's okay for me to, you know, I'm not the exception. I have to toe the line just like everyone else. And we always think that's a positive thing, right? But at some point, the self-talk can get to the point where it's not really a positive, you know, I'm going to go ahead and be this successful person. It becomes like, you know, we're putting ourselves in a box. And so the self-talk was what she emphasized a lot and made me realize that I'm not helping myself out with my negative self-talk a lot of the time, which I think it's a positive, but the way you think about it is really interesting. And the way they, you know, therapists are trained to catch little nuances like that in the way we talk about ourselves or talk about others or talk about our situation. And I actually started keeping notes the week before I saw her. Like I was seeing her every week for a while, and I would keep notes on how I felt and what triggered my stress. Like if I was, you know, I was a personal trainer at the time, so I would be home with my son, and then I would have clients at other times that I would meet at the gym. And sometimes I would just feel so stressed because the laundry wasn't done, the dishes weren't done, I still hadn't lost the last 10 pounds of baby weight, you know, so many things that just flood your mind. It's like this brain churn where if I could just get all the dishes done, and you know, my baby can be clean, and my baby can be fed, and my baby can sleep, and I can sleep, and if all these things are checked off my list, then I'll just be okay.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily possible when you're a mom. For a lot of months, it's like you just have to decide that it's okay that the laundry's not done and you're getting clean clothes out of the dryer, because that's where they live now. They just live in the dryer. Or you use paper plates. I was so worried when I first became a mom about, you know, sustainability. And sustainability is a really important thing, right, for our planet. But at some point, you can't wash all the dishes all day, you know? You have to have a limit to what you're putting on yourself. And I was really concerned about being all the things that I should, again, that word again, should be. And she made me realize that no, like, you need to just relax a little bit and know that you single-handedly having one meal or two meals, or I don't know, 7 days a week, meals with paper plates, you're not killing the planet single-handedly. It's okay. You know, you do what you can do, you recycle, you do what you can do. And it doesn't help the planet for you to be stressed out. It doesn't help the people around you for you to be stressed out. So now, no, it's not all cupcakes and rainbows, as they say. But my mindset has changed so much. And I think that's the primary thing that has changed my just motherhood in general, is that I don't stress out about most of the things that I used to stress out about. And, you know, you can't just let it all go. You still have to do laundry and do all those things. But I don't feel like a failure anymore. When I don't get it all done, I don't tell myself that I'm a failure anymore. I just say, well, that's another thing for another day. And it's still on my list of things to do, and I'll do it when I do it. And I've also gotten rid of a lot of stuff. I listen to the minimalists, they have, I think, a podcast or something and books and stuff. So I listened to their books on Audible, and it made me realize that a lot of the things that were stressing me out were all the extra. So getting rid of the extra was really helpful, and I need to do that again. And then the KonMari method, have you heard of? So there's this woman, I think her name is Marie Kondo, and she's a Japanese woman who talks about, she has developed the KonMari method, which basically is, everything in your home is stuff that you love. You don't keep just things around that are attached to, sentimental reasons aren't good reasons to keep things unless they really bring you joy. So I listened to her book, and that helped me to realize a lot of the stuff I was keeping around my house, I was only keeping because I felt guilty giving it away. So I, just little tidbits of things throughout the past 2 years of my son being around. I've pieced them together and realized it's not worth it, to be stressed out and to have this negative self-talk all the time.
Good for you. That's awesome. I love a couple things that you said. One is, I've realized I can't do all the things. And how important is that to say to ourselves every day, multiple times throughout the day? I know it with work. I feel sometimes like a rag doll where someone's just like, I need your attention. No, I need your attention. No, I need your attention. And sometimes it's the client that complains the loudest, or it's never my staff. They're awesome. But it always seems to be the clients, and it's whoever yells the loudest is who gets my attention. And I hate that, and I don't want that. So I'm going to continue to remind myself throughout the day, I can't do all the things. Yep. And I'm going to see what I can continue to take off my plate and put on someone else's plate. Yes. And I'm hired to do all the things.
Yes.
One thing that you haven't said that I think is an important word for you to start incorporating into your self-talk is permission. I give myself permission to not have China and to use paper plates, or I give myself permission to go take a walk, or permission to eat that piece of cake because damn it, I want it, or whatever. Like, I think within my mind, I try to use the word permission a lot when I feel like I'm trying to limit myself and put myself into this box of I have to be this and I have to do this. And one interesting thing that I learned that really helped, and I think this is important for women, and I even talk about it on social media, is hire somebody to help clean your house. Like, it's the best money that you could ever invest in. It's a marriage saver. Like, I remember this one day, and I'm not into sports, but my husband worked for ESPN Arkansas. And so he's incredibly infiltrated into the sports thing and watches all the games because he has to talk about it on the sports radio show. And so there was this huge national, I don't know, hockey thing, playoff thing. I don't even understand it all. And it was on TV. And I'm walking around the house, and I can feel myself getting more and more and more worked up. And I'm like, no one is cleaning this effing house except for me. I am the only one cleaning these toilets, and I'm not happy about this, and I'm tired, and it's my only day off, and I don't have to clean. And I could just feel myself getting more and more pissed off. And I come into the room where he is, and I'm like, if you don't help me clean these toilets right now, I swear to God, I'm going to kill everyone in this house. And he kept going but babe, this is the only time this thing has ever happened. And this is this huge sports event. And it was thinking with the Olympics, and it was 4 years ago, and it was some Olympic thing. And anyway, I didn't have the perspective to be able to say, okay, I get that. And I can just breathe and we can clean the toilets later. It was I was going to combust. Yes. And after the event, after the game, he came to me and he was like, you know what, honey, I think we can afford to hire somebody. And I don't want to clean the toilets. And he stood up for himself, and he gave himself permission and said, I don't like that. And look, I clean or I work all week long, and I finally get one day off. And then you want me to go clean all the toilets in the house. I don't want to do that. So you have permission to go hire somebody and just take care of it. And we don't have to worry about it anymore. And so for 3 years, I have someone that has come every week and cleaned the toilets and cleaned the entire house because I don't want to do it anymore. And I've given myself that permission to say I'm taking that off my plate. And then next for me is cooking. I hate
Yeah.
cooking. I swear to God, I am a dude in a woman's body. And I don't like cooking, and I don't like cleaning, and I don't like having to be in charge of everybody. And so that's the next thing I'm going to figure out is who can I have come cook for me every night so I can have a healthy meal and not have to cook it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've thought a lot in the past year about how time is money,
Yes.
and if I don't have time to devote to my blog, then I can't make money eventually. And my husband is a huge fan of delegation. And so he is totally that way. He's like, then put it on somebody else's plate. Sometimes the money is less important than you having the time you need to do all the things you need to do. And I don't want to look back. I was thinking one of the things that got me started with blogging is that I realized I don't want to look back and think, wow, I never became a blogger. I never fulfilled that dream. I just spent all my time stressing out about, oh, we can't use paper plates again, or oh, the toilet isn't clean, or oh, the bed isn't made. Like sometimes, when you think back on your life, like what I want to look back and think, wow, we had a really full life and we traveled and I built a business out of blogging and we did all these things, not how clean was the toilet? Like how many real dishes did we use? Like, who cares?
That's such a good point. And I think transitions us into like our last little few minutes together of, I love that you took the end of 2017, and I love how, even though it's all totally up in your mind and this is not like real pressure, but you feel the sense of pressure towards the end of every year. At least I think that we both do.
Mm-hmm.
And going like, am I okay with my life right now? And do I really want to do this forever? And if I don't, like, what changes do I need to make to figure out what that reality is actually going to look like at the end of the next year? And so walk us through some changes that you made. It sounds like you made a lot of big changes towards the end of 2017 to go 2018 is the year of blogging for me. And I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to be awesome, and I'm going to focus on fashion and this and this and this. And you've already started, and you're almost through with Q1 already. And kind of where do you sit with that? Do you feel good about the pace that you're on for 2018?
That's a very good question. All of your questions are amazing, by the way. They're very thought-provoking. I love it. So I started staying home with my son about 6 months before I officially said to myself that I needed to start blogging. It was with the intention of blogging, but that whole 6-month period, I kind of spent probably way too much time thinking about how I was going to do it and putting it up in my head like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. And when I finally get to that stage and when I finally get time, and December came around and I realized that I was limiting myself by trying to plan it out perfectly in my head. And there are a lot of things that I learned in just January itself about blogging, and my photos have evolved so much since January because I was under the impression that I needed to take a photo like of my outfits in front of a white background every time, right? Because that looks professional. But then when I really got outside of my little bubble and started looking at the bloggers on Instagram, I realized their feed isn't just white backgrounds. Well, some of them are, and they do a really good job, but you have to decide like what really works for my life. Is it really realistic to always be looking for a white background? And for me, I think people got a little bored with my feed. And so I realized I needed to change it and make it more like I'm showing my life. And, if I am out and about, take a photo wherever I am, because people want to know what your life is about. They don't want to feel like they're looking at a photo shoot. I was under the impression that they did, but I soon realized that's not really what people are into. And I think there's an interesting balance when you're doing something like this, and it's hard to figure out how much of other people's work you should be inspired by or compare to your own, versus how much of your own uniqueness to put into it, especially with a blog, because there is so much freedom in being a blogger and using all of my own creativity. I can either compare myself to other bloggers and think, well, I'm not as skinny as them, or I'm not as pretty as her, or I don't live in that spot. I don't live in New York. I live in New Mexico. And New Mexico isn't a glamorous place, you know? There are a lot of issues here. We don't have great education. We don't have, you know,
like, here's me in front of another cactus.
Yes, exactly. But I realized I need to just embrace where I am, and I'm in New Mexico, and there is culture here, and there are interesting things about this place. And so it's been an interesting thing in accepting where I live and accepting what my life actually looks like and accepting who I am, and not saying, well, I need to be skinnier if I'm going to be a fashion blogger, or I need to be more fit if I'm going to be talking about fitness, because people expect a personal trainer online to have like a six-pack. No, they don't. They shouldn't. And I think that's all just been a process, and learning to just start has been these last 3 months. I've just made the decision to start and do it and not overthink it. And I've learned as I've gone along, which has made it a lot more fun for me. It shouldn't be this stressful thing like, oh, I have to get a photo today and there's no white background, and what am I going to do? It's going to ruin my feed. No, it's probably not. So don't worry about it. Just post what you post, and the people who want to like it will. So it's okay.
Perfect. Okay, then I think this is a perfect place to wrap it up, because we have started and ended now at your Instagram feed. So talk a little bit about that and where people can go and find you. And then we will stop the interview and let them stop, click below, and then go like your Instagram feed. And what other platforms are you on? Because not everybody's on Instagram.
Okay, cool. So my main thing is my blog, which is just baesandoval.com.
And you said that really fast, so maybe spell it.
Sorry. So it's just baesandoval.com.
They spelled B-A-Y.
Yes, B-A-Y, Sandoval, SANDOVAL.com. And then I'm most active on Instagram with Instagram stories and everything. So just day to day, like what I'm doing throughout the day is on my Instagram stories. And then I'm also on YouTube, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on other things too, but I'm not as active necessarily on like Pinterest. I'm kind of breaking into these other platforms as I go. Yeah. But the main things are my blog and my Instagram. So I would love to be followed on there. I'd love for you to come say hi, and I just love to connect with people who are of the same mindset. So.
And her blog there's a link on Instagram at the top if you want to click into her blog, and it's really meaty. There's lots of stories and lots of videos. And so if you're looking for just fashion pictures, go find her on Instagram. And if you want the meat, the real rich, fun stuff, make sure that you go and subscribe to the blog so that you can see all of that. Awesome.
Thank you so much
for spending time with us today.
Thank you. I have loved this. We should like just chat for fun, like all the time. I love talking to you.
I love it. All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.